So the meeting is starting. So welcome everyone to today's webinar. Today we are pleased to have Dr. Vimbai Samukange. Dr. Vimbai is the Director of Biotechnology Research Institute at SIRDC, and she deals with the agricultural cluster. So Dr. Vimbai has been the Director at SIRDC since 2023. She has a broad-based background in the field of biology. She received a BSc degree in food science and technology from the University of Zimbabwe in 2007. And an MSc and doctorate degrees in agricultural science obtained from Kyoto University, that is from Japan, in 2012 to 2015. In her postgrad studies, she majored in enzyme chemistry with special focus on the role of matrilisin, which is MMP7, in cancer progression. And then from 2015 to 2018, she was a postdoctoral researcher at Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology, where she carried out research on the role of the NMR1 gene in memory and learning in C. elegans. From 2019 to August 2020, she worked as a research assistant at the Institute of Biochemistry in Romania, where she carried out research on aging in C. elegans. She's been affiliated with the National Biotechnology Authority and the Biotech Institute. Dr. Samukange has also taught the following modules at the University of Zimbabwe, which include principles of environmental health, cell biology and food hygiene, disease prevention and control. The areas of interest include enzymology, aging, nematology, especially C. elegans, generation of genetically better crops, drug discovery, development of do-it-yourself test kits for cancer, and also utilization of algae to produce commercially viable products. So for the sake of this meeting, all attendants have been muted and your cameras are off. But towards the end of the presentation, we're going to give everyone access to their mics and to their cameras so that they can contribute and have a discussion with Dr. Vimbai. Dr. Vimbai, it's over to you and welcome to the ZRN webinar.
Okay, thank you for having me. I hope I'm audible enough for everybody. Before I even begin, I just want to thank everybody who joined in. It's one of those things when you're supposed to present a webinar or anything of that nature, you're always a bit worried who's going to pitch up. So yeah, before I go into the issue of the matter, I'd just like to thank you for coming on board, so to say. I think the presentation as regards who I am, my background, etc., has already largely been done. When Brunette asked me to join the webinar and to present something, I was a bit unsure about what exactly I was going to present on. On one hand, sometimes you think maybe I should present on my actual own my research, but then after thoroughly going through it, I thought, let me talk about the organization that I'm currently affiliated with. One of the reasons why I did that is because I felt, as far as the research environment is concerned in Zimbabwe, I think that's another area where we are sort of like lagging behind. We really don't know our research institutes. We all have this like vague idea. What is SIRDC really? What is the Innovation Hub at UZ really? What is the Innovation Hub at MSU? What is the National Biotechnology Authority? What is exactly Chisumbange Research Institute and stuff like that? But I think there's still a bit of a mirage as far as we're concerned as Zimbabweans, in terms of really knowing the various research institutes that we have, the various centers that we have. What are they doing, or what are they trying to do? What have they done before in the past? How best can maybe you as an individual collaborate with them or come on board, etc., etc. So without wasting much time, I'll just go into it. So essentially, we are SIRDC. We are the Scientific and Industrial Research and Development Center. For those who might know SIRDC, we are housed at 1574 Alps Road in Heathcliff. For some people, they say we are in Harare. Others say, no, you're actually in Mashonaland East. So it really depends whom you're talking to on that particular matter. So as regards my presentation, I'm just going to talk about our mandate. This is just the outline, our mandate, our vision and mission, the organogram, our culture. But of special importance is just a bit on our research laboratories and our facilities and our current research, etc. So pretty much this is the outline that I'm going to follow. I'll try to be quick because it's quite a lengthy presentation, and we often use it at SIRDC when we have sometimes people coming over, so it's a bit long, so I'll be quick about it. All right, so our vision as far as SIRDC is concerned is to provide solutions for sustainable development through application of technologically developed products and processes. Our mission is essentially to be the leading technology and innovation center for the development of Zimbabwe and the region. Our core values: integrity, fairness and equity, compliance, employee recognition, teamwork, safety, and health. So I guess we can just say this is our motto, so to say, or these are our core, the core things that make our foundation, our vision and our mission, and our core values. As far as our mandate is concerned, we derive our mandate from government, so to say, but essentially we are there to carry out R&D for the benefit of manufacturing, agriculture, mining, and the services sector. We are open, and we do collaborate with other local institutions, basically in an attempt or to make sure that we strengthen local R&D capacity. We also have a role in helping to kind of like take on new technologies and to also generally promote technological partnerships and quality culture in business. Essentially, we're also into commercialization. So we do have a commercial vehicle of our own called ZTS. And we also provide consultancy services, both locally and regionally. And we also serve as a bit of like a repository and a disseminator of information. So this is sort of like a bit, I don't know if it helps, it just gives a bit of our mandate and some of our overall functions. Now I'm going to get in, I guess, into the meat of the issue. This is SIRDC. This is our organogram. SIRDC, unlike maybe some other institutes, we don't really fall under any particular ministry. I know you've got the ministries related to agriculture, foreign affairs, etc., etc. But SIRDC falls under the Office of the President and Cabinet, with our line minister being the Vice President, General Retired DCG DN Chiwenga. So when we step off from him, so to say, from the Vice President, we immediately have the Board of Directors, which is led by Mr. Mishek Kacheri. So he's the head of the board. And then from then on, we have the Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Leonardo Madzingaidzo. And then essentially from there, we break largely into two. Why I say two, the two most important being the technical domain or the technical departments, and then the finance and the administration, of which the department from which SIRDC derives its mandate is actually the technical domain, as one would expect since we are a research center. And then we have got a finance and administration. Basically, these act as they provide the support services. Basically, researchers cannot work in a vacuum without the support of finance teams, HR, people who run the canteens, etc. Then, like I pointed before, we have ZTS Private Limited, which means Zimbabwe Technological Solutions. Essentially, this is a subsidiary that was developed by SIRDC. It's wholly owned by SIRDC. The purpose of this of ZTS is essentially to commercialize products that would have come from the research side. I know the thrust has been, our products should not remain on the shelves in our labs, so to say. They should help the common man on the street. So to some extent, ZTS allows us to do that. And not only that, they also help to fund research, because as one would expect, we develop the prototypes, they upscale them, they sell the products. We get a bit from the funds or from the revenue, so to say, or the profit that they would have generated from the sales of the various products. So that's ZTS in a nutshell. And then, of course, as would be expected of any government institute, we've got the audit department, or the internal audit department, which I guess you can see they somewhat directly report to the board of directors and to the chief executive officer. Then this is SIRDC. Like I pointed out, we've got the research side, and within the research, we've got 12 institutes. So these 12 institutes are laid out as below. We've got the Biotechnology Research Institute, which is the one that I belong to. And then we've got what we call the Building Technology Institute. As the names kind of speak for themselves, this is sort of like their core work. And then we've got ETI, which is the Energy Technology Institute. We've got an Environmental Science Institute, Electronics and Communications Institute, Food and Biomedical Technology Institute, Geoinformation and Remote Sensing Institute, Informatics Institute, Metallurgical Research Institute, National Metrology Institute, Polymer and Material Science Institute, and the Production Engineering Institute. So we are made up like that. So each institute has a director who oversees that institute, and it consists of scientists at different levels, so to say. And some of the institutes also have what we can call support staff, is in the form of like casual workers, and so to say, people who also help with the manual work. So in a nutshell, I guess for people who probably didn't know, we are a multidisciplinary institute, as you can see, covering pretty much all the areas that you can think of in the area or the domain of science. So yeah, that's pretty much us. And then in terms of where we draw our direction, like I said, we're a government entity or a government institute. We fall under government. So obviously, in terms of our direction, it's pretty much determined by by the NDS2 and NDS1, which we just recently finished, the National Development Strategy 1, the National Development Strategy 2, which we're currently now implementing, and of course, Vision 2030. So in terms of the areas of research that we do, or the areas of research that we try to prioritize, they are normally drawn from this particular directives, so to say, the Vision 2030 and the National Development Strategy 2. As is expected, we publish our strategic plan. We already published the one for 2021 to 2025. So what essentially happens is from NDS1, that's where we draw our strategic plan. So from NDS1, we drew our strategic plan, which is what we try to implement during the period from 2021 to 2025. And we now also have our second strategic plan, which we are trying to implement, which will cover 2026 to 2030. And that one is drawn from NDS2. So essentially, these kind of just give us the trajectory, the development direction, or our priorities, at least as a research institute. What is it exactly that we're supposed to be doing that should feed into the country's overall objectives, or the overall aims or vision? So I think I've already explained this about NDS2 in general. And essentially that for us, it's about consolidating the gains, of course, of what we had done in NDS1. So SIRDC, like I already pointed, it's divided into two. The sub-program, there's the overall program too, right? And then so we have our sub-programs, which is the research and development, which I already talked about, and which I highlighted that the research and development, it's essentially, itself is divided into three. But within these three components, that's where you have the 12 institutes. And then under that scientific program 2, we also have sub-program 2, which is the technology and commercial information process system. Basically, they also assist in the commercialization of new technologies. They also help with trainings, these specialized capacity building trainings, which we normally do with either whether they are rural communities or even the urban ones. I think this, for most people, you're familiar with this. These are the national priority areas, which we know as SIRDC contribute to. Like I pointed, NDS2 is we can say it's it directs us in terms of our activities. And from NDS2, that's where we pick the NPAs, as they're called. And these are the ones that we work on, so to say. Like I already pointed, we have the institutes that I talked about. So the institutes are then grouped into what we can term clusters. So like I already pointed, I belong to the Biotechnology Research Institute. So the Biotechnology Research Institute makes up the agricultural cluster. And then we have the energy and power. I think you saw the particular institute, and then health. The reason why, after some years, this is sort of like a transition that's happening in SIRDC. I think I'm going to go back a bit just to point something so that there won't be any confusion. I hope. Okay, so as you can see, after some time, like discussing with our principals in the OPC, they realized that maybe we should frame our institutes in a way that people can easily relate to them. So gradually, we are moving away from using these terminologies for the institutes and moving towards using the cluster terminology, whereby like an institute like the Biotechnology Research Institute, it falls under the agricultural cluster. Like number 6, the Food and Biomedical Technology Institute, it falls under the health cluster. So it's sort of like a change in terminology as well, and also sort of like a grouping together of similar institutes. So I'll just proceed to where we were. Then, like I pointed, we are a multidisciplinary institute. So being a multidisciplinary institute, sometimes you have projects that you need to carry out that require people with different skill sets in order to achieve the objectives of the project. And also when we are selecting a project, at like any research institute, sometimes there's so much that is expected of you. But in order to select the right project that you can do, we have a process which we term the stage gate process. It's basically a process that allows us to screen for the right projects or for the right ideas, so to say, that we can implement. It's a process that allows us also to be able to effectively carry a project from initiation all the way up to commercialization. It's a project also that allows, it's a system that allows, it's a process, sorry, that allows us to be able to bring on board all individuals who might be helpful towards meeting the objectives of the particular project that it is that we want to achieve. So this is sort of like our what can I say, our methodology that we use, or our protocol that we use in terms of when we want to implement a project or select a project. I think for other research institutes, I think it's a process people might want to look into. For me, when I joined SIRDC in 2023, that was 2023, June of 2023, it was a fairly new concept to me. And to be quite honest, initially I didn't appreciate it myself. because when you have your school of thought, as far as you're concerned, you're like, I know I've been initiating projects, I've been carrying out different types of projects. And when you have people like suggesting alternative methods which you can use to carry out to kind of go through the process of starting a project, there's a bit of resistance. But after acquainting myself with it and going through the process, what I can say is I think it's a very good method. And I think if you're a research institute or even a company, it's something that maybe you might want to try and might work well for you. I think I've already talked about this, that our system now is slowly moving away from the idea of institutes to clusters, which speak more to the ordinary person, to the everyday person who can, something that everybody can quickly sort of like conceptualize and understand. So we've got the agricultural cluster, the health, industry and manufacturing, built environment and transportation systems, commercialization, small and medium enterprises, water and environment, mining and mineral beneficiation, information and communication technology, energy and power. So in a bit of a nutshell, this is sort of like the clusters that we have. And this is what makes up the SIRDC R&D or research and development program, so to say. So I think I'm going to go straight into now the agricultural cluster, which is the cluster that I belong to and which I probably understand the most. So in terms of the agricultural cluster, in terms of things that have been done so far, the team has worked on the development of an agricultural surveillance drone. Of course, this is in partnership with other clusters as well. So this is, I think we can say it's semi past the prototype stage. We've been assessing it. And then we have also, as you'd expect, we have got our team works on seed production. So in terms of the seed portfolio, we have got what we term, we've got disease-free Irish potato seed. So essentially, the seed is it's propagated. We start from tissue culture work in the lab. That's that essentially we can eliminate viruses. This is meristem culture which we work with, and then from then on, we have your plantlets. The plantlets are then hardened in the greenhouse. It's an acclimatization process, and then after they've been hardened, they are transferred into what we call the aeroponics. It's another type of greenhouse. I don't know if how familiar people are with aeroponics, but if you're familiar with hydroponics, so aeroponics is another type of system whereby the roots of the plant are immersed like in a tank, and then there's mist that is sprayed, nutrient-rich mist. So essentially, they grow from that nutrient-rich mist. It's a little bit different from hydroponics, where you have got an actual nutrient-rich solution, which will be flowing. As opposed with this one, there's no actual flowing nutrient media. It's more like the media is being sprayed, like a mist that's being sprayed occasionally in cycles. So the potatoes, they grow under those conditions. You ultimately have what we term tubers. Some can view them maybe as small as seed potato, and then these are harvested. Upon harvesting, it's the normal process that we do for potatoes. You harvest them, you grade them, you place them in your dark rooms so that they can sprout. And then after that, that's when we begin the field multiplication of the potatoes. The benefit with this process or the system is that essentially, as you can see, it's safe. One, you have got virus-free material. I won't go much. You're all scientists, you know the benefits of that. And then two, it saves on space. The multiplier effect of starting from the aeroponics is quite good, as opposed to if we were just going to grow the plantlets into the soil, into the ground. So this is one of the activities that we have. And then we also developed seed, rice seed. This is under our rice breeding programs. So we've got our own seed varieties, Seed Rice 201 and 301. And then this has been largely done also in partnership. And then also in partnership, we also have a project on BSF, Black Soldier Fly. These I'm sure most of you are quite familiar, so I won't really go into the nitty-gritties. And if you want to hear the nitty-gritties, then you can then always text me. But yes, so we've got the BSF project, and then this is in partnership, and under that project as well, we've also done projects to do with sweet potatoes, etc. Of course, we've got a team, like I said. Now I'm slowly moving into another cluster, energy and power, but I'm going to stop, Brunette, if it's okay. I'm going to stop for now. Just to find out if there are questions, because this is sort of like I've kind of covered my particular area.
Okay, so I think we do have questions from the audience. Thank you, Dr. Vimbai. So in the moment, I'm going to make sure that I'm unmuting all the attendees. And then, so while we're doing that, can I have a question if you've got any from the Prof or Dr. Tatenda?
Hi, thank you so much, Vimbai, for the wonderful presentation. Now we kind of get an idea of what happens in Mashonaland East. So it's really great work which you are doing. I have two questions. First, on you talked briefly about the protocol that you follow, starting from ideation until you come up with a research with a kind of a commercial product. Most of our members, I think most of them are going to agree with me. We come from the upstream end of things, where we are trying to come up with research that addresses some basic questions, and sometimes curiosity-driven questions. But coming up with an idea now that is commercially viable is something that we lack. So my question is, does SIRDC support researchers in that particular area so that we can make sure that our research can become more impactful?
Yes, yeah. I'll for example, we have the team that I pointed out to you on the slide, which I said TIPS. So TIPS basically they assist with the commercialization of our products, and they also do capacity building trainings, essentially in a lot of areas. So if it's something that maybe scientists want to say, okay, fine, we need a bit of help, I think maybe even in understanding how to go about the stage gate process, how to identify projects that can actually are commercially viable in the long run. TIPS I think they're very open, they're on board to come in and step in and give some kind of guidance.
Yeah. Then my second question, hopefully the last one, is on around that area as well. Because one of the challenges that we have faced is information moving, really, where people don't have the information, right, that it's there in the organization, but researchers don't get that information. I'm just curious, are there any opportunities where, say, your cluster can have, in the UK they call it sandboxes, in computer science they kind of called hackathons, where people from different walks of life are kind of brought together. Then as SIRDC, you give us, say, 5 problems that you think can need to be addressed. Then all these different people can kind of form teams and start attacking that problem maybe in a day or two. Is it something that SIRDC will be able, because I'm sure as Zimbabwe Research Network will be quick to jump into that kind of opportunity by level, where we can bring people together and they attack specific issues that SIRDC kind of consider priority.
Okay, it's a bit fuzzy for me to say yes or no, but what we do have is SIRDC is always open, like, to collaborations. And open collaborations, whereby you're saying, you know what, we want to do something, but maybe it's still vague exactly what we would like to address, or the kind of research that we'd like to do, or the kind of partnership that we'd like to have. But I think as a starting point, I think things like that, just maybe having some kind of collaboration and coming together, and then having a meeting with also my executive director, technical. I think, anything is possible.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Over to you, Brunette.
Okay, yes, Dr. Kashinda, do you have a question?
I think Professor Edmund kind of captured some of my sentiments, and thank you, Dr. Samukange, for your presentation. I think it was more of an informative session than it was the typical situation where someone presents their research and then we ask questions related to their work. So I think the questions that we have are more related to, okay, so what's the next step? Given that we now have this information that you have provided, I'll be curious to know from your end, how do you think you can exploit the resources we have as a network, given that we're a network of thousands of researchers across the globe, from senior professors all the way to research assistant level, where we always discuss research issues, we disseminate our work, and we're spread across various disciplines. And basically, we want to increase the research capacity of the country, particularly targeting research output as far as publications are concerned, conferences are concerned. We feel like we have lost what we took pride in decades ago, as far as having institutions that on a continental basis, on a global basis, we had scholarly representation. And we're kind of missing that due to brain drain, etc. And we're finding ways of saying, listen, it's not that we don't have the capacity. It's not that we don't have the resources. It's not that we don't have. So that's where we are. And we're trying to push on that agenda. And so how do you think, at least as a network, how do you see how you can exploit the resources that we have as a network?
Thanks for that question. I think that was the thing I had in mind when Brunette asked me to present. I think I pointed out that, I thought, okay, maybe I could present on my research. But then I realized there's a lot of mystery surrounding our research institutes. What are they doing? Where are they? What's the direction in terms of what they want to do? So I felt like this is sort of like an opportunity for me to at least say, okay, there's SIRDC. This is what SIRDC is all about. So far I've only shown the agricultural cluster. And to just say, this is sort of like some of the work that we're doing. If you are somebody who, for example, maybe who's in the field of agriculture, biotechnology, and you've got areas of interest that you'd like to carry out research with, in collaboration with people in Zimbabwe, or if it's something that maybe you'd want us to do research here in Zimbabwe by ourselves, we're just saying, like, essentially our doors are open. I think that's my emphasis. Our doors are open. Our thrust, at least as far as the cluster that I belong to, agriculture, is to push towards having a food secure nation. And any research ultimately that aids that, we are more than willing to work with whoever is willing to work with us.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Kashinda and Dr. Vimbai, for your response. So next, I'm going to ask Musa, Dr. Musa Takundwa. Can you unmute your mic and go ahead with the question? Thank you.
Thanks. Great presentation on SIRDC. Good evening, everyone. I have two questions. The first one is, given that you don't sit within a particular ministry, for example, Ministry of Science and Technology, you fall under the Office of the President. How are you funded? How do you guys, where does your budget come from? And the second one, the distinction between TIPS and ZPS. How do you distinguish between those two? Since they're both into commercialization, is it not a duplication of their functions, or how are they distinguished one from the other? Thanks.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. All right. As far as funding is concerned, yeah, I think it's a tall order. I feel that way. Sometimes when particularly you're like somebody who's in agriculture, you're like, maybe it would have been easier if I was just under the Ministry of Agriculture. But in terms of funding, how we have managed so far. So each cluster essentially their activities that we carry out. Like I already pointed out, we work in seed production. So we are responsible for taking care of actually releasing the varieties. Sometimes some we license, we get them through a license. There are others like that. And we also maintain the breeder seed and the foundation seed, which we naturally direct towards ZTS, who go on to multiply and sell. So obviously they give us a commission for the work that would have done on the R&D and on the more technical side. We also have trained capacity building, like trainings that we offer. For us, we have got a lot of trainings in the agricultural side, horticultural trainings, livestock trainings, rearing trainings. So yeah, it generates a bit of money for us as well. And then we try as much as possible to write for lots of grants. So here and there, we get some, and they aid us and they help us to carry out our research. And then we also apply for consultancy work, and that also helps us to also fund some of the research activities that we'll be trying to do. And then government has got what it terms key priority areas. If I go to the health cluster, you'll notice that they're working on livestock vaccines. So when a project is kind of like defined as a key priority or a national priority project, it receives funding from government directly. So yeah, for the vaccine development, which the health cluster is working on, they've got direct funding from government for that. So yeah, it just depends also the nature of the projects that you're doing, but essentially, we apply for grants, we apply for consultancy work, we do trainings, and then some of the clusters, they offer actual services like our NMI Institute, National Meteorology Institute, they offer calibration services, the energy and power cluster as well, they offer services in solar work related. So yeah, it's a mixed bag in terms of how we try to raise revenue. And then we are also a bit fortunate to have the South Koreans on board. South Korea through RDA, which is called the Rural Development Authority of South Korea. They've got 2 agencies that we also work with, and they also assist in funding as well.
Okay, thank you. So I think the second question from Mutsa was if there's a duplicity of roles between TIPS and
ZTS. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. I think the temptation would be there. But what do I call it? TIPS does is more like in-house, sort of like what can I call commercialization of some of our activities, like training. Like let's say if we develop a model or a product and it's within its early stages, sometimes they can train people on how to use it, etc. Or even the trainings that we conduct, they are the ones who are responsible for facilitating and organizing those particular trainings. And then ZTS is more, it's essentially an independent company, so to say. They've got 3 divisions under them: foundry, seed, and retail. So essentially, they literally take the whole product, what can I say, licensed product or the released varieties or etc., and they actually mass produce them and actually sell them. I hope the distinction helps.
I think it definitely helps. So we've got another question from Richard. Can you unmute your mic?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we can.
Do you want to see me as well?
Or if you prefer.
Okay, I'll just ask my questions. I have a lot of questions, but I think I'll just ask maybe 2.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I can always ask you. I think I know where to find you. So one of my questions was the funding issue, which you've answered in a way. And yeah, I think I really wish you would get more funding from the government because you're parastatal, right? So I don't know how we can improve on that. Like try convince the government to fund more things. Anyway, that's not part of my questions. So my first question is, so you as the director, who works under you? Like from the organogram, I can see you've got directors for each cluster, as you call it now. So who works under you? I'm trying to figure out how your research is carried out. Like, are you up there and there are people doing different kinds of research, if it's biotech related or whatever is under agriculture? That's one question. The other one is about duplicity. Maybe it's not, or it's more about how are you related to the other parastatal research organizations? I know you've been at NBA before. I know what NBA does in a way, but how do you because you're under the president's office, but then how do you relate to the other parastatal research institutes? I know NBA still does research, but they're also a regulator and all these things. So NBA, TRB, CVL is probably part of those, Center of Vet Lab, because you talked about animal vaccines that are done there at SIRDC, but then CVL does some of these things. I know you do virus-free potatoes. You probably do virus-free sweet potatoes, tissue culture, and all these things. You find these things at TRB as well. So as parastatals, are we not duplicating the same kinds of things? Or it's necessary because you want to generate money and all these things? So it's just my thoughts on how things can be organized better so you can have a more efficient and maybe wider range of research aspects you can carry on. Thank you.
If I can add on,
Yeah.
Dr. Samukange, it would be nice if maybe in terms of areas of focus that maybe I'm thinking out loud, that all the agencies that are currently working on similar issues, that maybe some sort of a consortium, even if informal, is formed. And since there is a commitment of funding from the government, did we lose her?
I'm checking. Yes, I think we lost her a bit. She was saying that her computer was acting up a little bit, so maybe that is it.
So
I'll contact
maybe
you
we can
in
go
WhatsApp,
back
but
to
you can continue with the discussion. Yes, thank you, Dr.
I can comment on Richard's question.
I think the previous speaker, because also
Yeah.
I'm getting an inclination that you may be part of a government agency. If you don't want to disclose, that's fine. But it would be nice to figure out, because I like your idea a lot. And if you are in Zim, for example, and are able to facilitate some of these things along with the network that we have, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I can comment on duplication of function. So with regards to SIRDC and Tobacco Research Board, a good example is they both worked on potatoes or continue working on potatoes, but the focus is slightly different, or especially between the two, that their focus kind of differs. And there is power in coordination in their activities. Again, we know the National Biotechnology Authority also does work on the same work again as in what is happening to Tobacco Research Board, what is happening in SIRDC, is also being done at National Biotechnology Authority. So while there is benefit in coordination, it's also important that duplication of function is essential, especially when it comes to developing resistant systems. Taking, for example, if we're just talking of improving potatoes, if we have got these three organizations who are approaching the same problem, yes, using biotechnology, but using different tools, it is going to be helpful, especially in this kind of environment where there is extreme weather environments, new diseases coming up, all those things. So that duplication of function, in as much as it appears as a waste, it's critical for resilience, especially when we're talking of developments in crop resilience. It's important that we have that kind of duplication of function.
So if I can poke at that statement, then we can we then say Doc is coming back? Is she coming back at a good time?
Yes, she is. Yes, I think she's trying to come back in. Yes.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, so apologies. I'll just go into that one. I think someone is the first that was from Richard. The 1%, I'm sure everybody's heard about it by now. They keep talking about it, that we're going to dedicate 1% of our GDP to research. So everybody, I think as researchers, not just only from SIRDC, we're just keeping our fingers crossed that they, as they said, they shall do. And the 1% will come through, and I think it will do a lot for researchers and the whole research fraternity in the country in general. But until that happens, I think we're just going to keep on applying for grants and consultancy work until we actually get we finally see that 1% coming through. In terms of my institute, so basically, like I said, ours was initially the Biotechnology Research Institute, which is the agricultural cluster. Directly, I could say I have 20 people, and they are largely divided into two areas, plants or crop science or crop domain, and livestock. So on the crops and plant side, are two areas we normally focus around, things like seed development and plant propagation techniques. That's largely our core area. Of course, trying to now incorporate biotechnology into it. The whole biotechnology discipline has been kind of really quiet as far as Zimbabwe is concerned. I think it's also because of regulations and etc. So the vigor that we see other countries having with it is not quite the same, but we're slowly trying to push in that direction. And then of course we have got the livestock department, which also just caters around particular things to do with feed development. So that's in a nutshell, that's the agricultural cluster. And then we've got a bit of the extension services side. Like I said, we work a lot with the Korean agencies, Kafasi and Kopia, and their focus is Kafasi's focus is research, but Kopia's focus is more around improving, more like your livelihood projects, promoting livelihood projects or promoting technologies that are already there, but just kind of like giving people the confidence to actually uptake those technologies. So as far as the agricultural cluster, that's sort of like us. On the issue of duplicity, yes, that's true. I'm not going to hide because I've been in a number of institutes before I came to SIRDC. So yes, I do feel like, yeah, the duplicity aspect is there. You've got your innovation hubs. They're kind of doing the same things here and there. We have our research institutes kind of doing the same thing. We've got our research institutes under the ministries also kind of like doing similar stuff. We've got some private companies that are very big, kind of doing similar stuff as well in terms of research. But I think personally, I wouldn't worry too much about it. For now, I feel like because I also came back to Zim in 2020 after hiatus away. So I feel like Zimbabwe has kind of been through a lot. And when you've kind of been having a lot of economic upheavals, research kind of takes a back burner. It's something that just happens. It ceases to be a priority. And so what we're seeing, I feel, is everybody trying to now get into it. So yes, maybe these are still the low-hanging fruits, so to say, which people are trying to maybe grab. But I do trust maybe 3-4 years time, 3 years time, hopefully. I want to, even as a scientist, I want to see us moving. I want the scope, I hope to see the scope of our research as a country, research areas as a country widen. So to say, want to see more people talking about cancer research, HIV, arthritis, etc., etc. But I do admit at this moment, the reason why it looks like we're duplicating is just, I think the spectrum in which people, of things that we can do, it's still limited. Funding is still limited. Even for other spaces, even still a bit of a challenge. And even the skill set, it's work in progress. So I hope that aspect dies down, and then collaborations. Like I said, the spirit of working together it's not one of our greatest points, so to say. But I think I'm starting to see some traction. Like with us, I've seen we have a number of MOUs that we have written with a number of universities. So I think when we have those, essentially now we're kind of like going to bring our resources together. They allow us to bring our resources together and our ideas together in an environment where we feel safe to share the ideas and the resources. So I think that the issue is just to keep on encouraging each other to collaborate more. If we collaborate more, the duplication will kind of slowly die down, so to say, and our natural strengths will kind of like come up. Yeah, and I think that's that. Yeah, that's my take.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that very informative reply. So now I'm going for the last round of questions, and may I please make them short and straight to the point. The first person to ask will be Dr. Tatenda, and then after Dr. Tatenda, you go to Dr. Anthea, or Prof. Anthea, I'm sorry, then you go to Manza Patrick. So Tatenda.
Hi, Doc. I was literally wanting to maybe figure out how we can have some action points, because I think if we are to leave this meeting and not at least have an action point as far as the collaboration side of things, would have missed a nice opportunity. Richard, I'd like to bring you back if you're there and you can hear me. If
Richard?
you want to.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Do you want to disclose where you work?
Okay. I'm in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you doing?
I'll put my full name down at some point so we can probably talk about some things. Yeah.
Okay, so we can get in touch with you after the meeting. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, that's fine.
And are you? I think we can. The whole point is this: given that we have talked about several entities that are working on similar issues, we don't want to work in silos and kind of like put our efforts separately. In as much as I like how Prof. Edmond has said, okay, we have the tobacco research entity, for example, that is working on a different, similar, but a different way of working on, for example, sweet potatoes, right? It would be still nice to know, I think, within a big network of, for example, in your group, we're working on agriculture, that these are the people who are doing XYZ on agricultural research in Zimbabwe, right? As far as seed innovation, etc. Where we also think it would be nice to say, if there's a consortium like that, writing grants as a consortium in that capacity where we say this is much better. And then you will have some researchers who actually work on that type of research. When you write grants as well, you can even say we want to have PhDs. For example, there's Wageningen University here that you probably know about that does a lot of research in that field. And you say, let's collaborate with this institution. So if you apply for a grant, even for an EU standpoint, you now have a stronger chance of, you know, of getting grants, because the things that you're doing and the things they're working on are exactly what I think from an international perspective are what people are calling for as far as research output is concerned in Africa. So those are things I think we need to at least solidify to say we can keep in touch and say our homework would be who's doing what as far as research from a parastatal perspective is concerned. Concerted efforts on finding out that information, and when can we get together at some point and map out a plan as to how can we further develop our research goals, interests, funding, etc. And the good thing about our people in our network is that research dissemination, output, PhD student calls, those are things that will be very easy to do and easy to find. For example, you want people already working on a certain type of research. You want people who can supervise students from Zim who go to an institution abroad to get more skills, come back, implement more innovative skills. Those are things that we can actually start talking about and saying, at the very least, let's map out an ideal plan and let's put it into action. We've been talking about applying for grants, and I think with parastatal agents on top of it, it will be an even more successful thing. Then we put our researchers into silos. We have people who are senior who can actually say, let's work together and let's have these clusters that you have, for example, and along with other agencies, and let's apply for grants.
Thank you. No, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree. I co-sign.
Okay, so thank you. So maybe after this session, we can talk behind the scenes, then we form a group or a call to action for members. This is if after the discussion with Dr. Vimbai, of course, we can map the way forward. So thank you very much, Dr. Chinda. So next is Anthea Mtefa. May you please make it short? We've been on for 1 hour, so make it short and precise. Thank you, Anthea.
Really was focused on perhaps the regulatory side of things or the compliance side of things. And of course, that's also linked to the research priorities. If there are innovations in agriculture or even the current market as it stands with regards to agricultural products, the meat, the crops, what are the priorities for research to ensure that there is regulatory compliance there? Does this organization focus on that as well? Because I think that's very important.
Okay, so I hope I heard her correctly. So in terms of compliance, so to say, at least when I look at the agriculture in particular, so when it comes to seed, seed basically moves from it has a breeding pipeline, and then there's of course the varietal release process, and then of course then we now have the multiplication and the final commercialization. So in Zimbabwe in general, in order for you to release a variety, this is done under the guidership or the stewardship of the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands, basically their seed services department. These are the people who oversee the whole process of seed development, whether you're developing seed as a private company like Seedco, or whether you're us, yes, you're the SEDEC. Everybody it's basically they oversee seed, they basically oversee the whole seed systems process process in Zimbabwe. And that includes even the importation of germplasm or material for research. So that falls largely squarely on the Ministry of Agriculture and the Seed Services Department. Then when it comes to a lot of the work that we do, like biotechnology, molecular biology work, which of course the issues that arise around biosafety, that's now that's overseen by the National Biotechnology Authority. So they are the stewards of all things that have to do with biosafety, whether we're talking about genetic engineering, GMOs, genome edited products, essentially the same foodstuffs that are being imported, any work to do with microbes. Essentially, they're the entity that deals with biosafety related items. And apart from seed services, the Ministry of Agriculture also has, I believe that's the Plant Quarantine Institute department. They deal with the importation, anything that's being imported into the country for research, if it's material, living material, or biological material, they're responsible for overseeing the nature of that material. So yeah, for us in agriculture, those are sort of like the key regulators. Of course, we also have MCAS, who also oversee if you're doing work like around vaccines, etc., and AMA, who also deal with issues to do with importation, if you're exporting a product that's already been produced. So in terms of regulation, I feel like Zimbabwe is pretty, they do more regulating than research sometimes. From where I'm standing, I think we've got the paperwork for regulation. Don't do this, don't do that. Why did you do that? You'll be penalized if you do that. I think we're pretty there on the regulatory stuff. We almost joke with some of my friends that these guys are regulating, but we are not really doing the research on all these things that they've got all these regulators and but the research to that they want to regulate, we are not really doing it. We don't really have the resources. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, that is quite interesting, actually. Yeah, because I think everyone has got an idea of or a point to what you just alluded to. So, anyway, next to Dr. Patrick, short and precise, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vimbai, for that wonderful presentation. I thought it's really nice to also have more information on SIRDC. It's always been a sign on the road. Having grown up at Vinona High School, I've always wondered what is happening there. I just have two questions for you, Dr. Vimbai. The one is basically on what you've touched on right now, which is the regulations and restrictions, and how easy is it to bring on board other researchers? How much red tape will we face when we sort of get to engage with you? Are we going to spend a year and a half just trying to get accreditation? How do you know anything about that? I know that it might be something that is beyond your control, but I'm just from your experiences with working with other people. And then the next question would be on instrumentation and sort of the capacity that you have at the moment at SIRDC. Would you say that there is what type of instrumentation would you have, perhaps even in your department when you speak of molecular biology and that sort of thing? Because that's something that perhaps at some point some people may want to come in and say, well, we've got the instrumentation, you have the people, let's collaborate, or the other way around, we have the ideas, you have the instrumentation, can we sit and work on these ideas together? Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, red tape, it depends from. Okay, so research it's pretty broad. It depends. Are you a Zimbabwean national coming to do research in Zimbabwe? Are you a foreigner who's coming to Zimbabwe to do research, in terms of the barriers that you encounter, they're all dependent on that. Obviously, if you're a Zimbabwean, it's a bit easier. You might not have to deal with issues of immigration for starters. That might be less of an issue, and it just might be around registrations. Most notably, we have to register with the Research Council of Zimbabwe. If you're a researcher and you're coming from abroad and you want to conduct research in Zimbabwe, but I'm not quite sure. I think if you're not as a Zimbabwean passport holder, so to say, you'd probably also have to deal with the immigration officials as well before you actually start the research. But I think this is everywhere in the world. I was once in Romania, so that was the process as well before you actually begin the work. And then also it depends when you're coming to do the work, the research. Is it a case of like you are an independent researcher? Have you joined a university that you're now maybe affiliated with, or a research institute? So all of those, they come into the equation. Is it a collaboration? Is it something like an MOU that you've written, and then you're sort of like building yourselves from there? So basically where you're coming from, who you are, what do you want to do, all of that has implications in what you want to do as well. You find there are some research activities that are easier to conduct, particularly maybe in the social domain, maybe surveys, etc. But of course, wet lab related research has got its challenges. Sometimes registrations, accreditations, all of those might be required, and even some continuous monitoring and evaluation for some projects. So it really depends on a number of things, but it's doable. It's not some mammoth task. It's something that can be done and can be implemented. I think the next question you asked was my lab. I always, when people ask me that question, I always say, it's Zimbabwe's lab. So in terms of our labs, for me and also the other director who heads the health cluster, I have to be honest, our labs are now pretty good. Like I said, there was funding that was in terms of the general setup of the labs, workspace itself, infrastructure. I really have to commend them on that. This was largely, like I said, if due to the fact that we had what they termed an NPA, a national priority, sort of like NPP project. So they did avail quite a bit of funding for it. Equipment, the other lab is a bit better, the health one, because they are the main focus. Our lab, we've got basic equipment, nothing special, but we have equipment. You're starting from your very basic autoclaves, benchtop, pH meters, centrifuges, glassware, UV specs, thermocyclers. We do have all that stuff. Something that you're going to find very interesting about the Zimbabwean landscape, which I actually want to point out, is that you might actually find that in Zimbabwe you will get equipment. I know it can come as a shock to some, but you actually find that in Zimbabwe you might actually easily get a lab space, working space, and you might actually find that some of the
So I think she's buffering again, or maybe there's a connectivity issue. So yeah. I hope she comes back soon. So while we're waiting for her to come back, I'm going to present to you the next presenter. Right. So can you all see my screen? Okay. So while we're waiting for Dr. Samukange to come back and finish so that we tie up today's session, the next presenter is Dr. Gwatire Rajawangwe, and is going to be presenting on navigating research ethics application in Zimbabwe. So this will be for the 26th of June, 2026, at the usual time at the same place. So we look forward to seeing you all. I think we actually had a question about regulation and regulation authority and the barriers and the red tape. So Dr. Jawangwe is actually coming to answer most of those questions for us. So I think it's very opportune that you had this question today. Well, we've prepared to have Dr. Jawangwe coming up next. So if Dr. Samukange is not joining us anytime soon, I think we would have come to the end of the meeting. She's having a bit of a challenge with the connectivity, but I think she has answered most of the questions. I had a few questions from the people who had registered. I don't know if there's anyone who is willing to answer actually, because one question was, how can the Department of Chemistry of UZ organize a collaboration with SIRDC? Is anyone willing to answer this? Or maybe we say, like she suggested, SIRDC is open to collaborations. We just have to get in touch with them.
I think if you're a member of the network, it'll be nice to keep in touch with the admin, because we have then discussed that there are people in the network who belong to institutions that will be interested in collaborating. So you have to express your interest, because once we start getting in touch, then we'll need to know who wants to collaborate and to what capacity. I like that she also mentioned how they have equipment. It's sounding like maybe those who are interested in conducting research could also be allowed to use some of the equipment on there, if the interests are aligned, if interests are mutual. So I think it was a nice presentation, and for those who are interested in asking further questions, be in touch with the admin, and those who are interested in collaborating, be in touch with the admin.
Okay, actually, we have one other question. Since we've got so many people maybe who are interested in agriculture or biotech joining us today, there's one person who asked that they have a moringa tree plantation in Gutu, and there's been talk about its medicinal properties and what help can they get. They're looking for partners interested for scale-up or maybe for natural bioactive extraction and characterization. So if you're interested in this question, or you're interested in looking more into moringa or natural bioactives, get in contact with me or with admin, and then I can link you up with these attendees interested in looking for partners. Right. Then there was also someone asking about collaborations between the field of entomology and entomology from the academic institutions with SIRDC. And I'm sure that Dr. Samukange touched a little bit on the different institutes that they work with. So you can also get in contact with us, then we can link you up, and then you can have a more in-depth discussion with the people at SIRDC. So thank you, everyone. We've come to the end of today's meeting. It was quite informative. I think we all got a grasp into what SIRDC looks like and how it operates and how it is funded, and it is open to different collaborations. So like Dr. Tashinda said, get in touch if you're interested. We're planning a consortium, I think, yes, which is something very interesting. We're planning a consortium so that we can not work in silos, but we work together for a similar goal, and then we just attack issues together as a team. And this is the whole point of the Zimbabwe Research Network, to form collaborations, to form connections, and to work together. So thank you, and see you next time. Have a nice Friday and have a nice weekend. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
So Dr. Samukange just came back.
You already shut the session.
Because I was like, maybe this time she's really gone for good. But I don't know if there's still anyone online, but if they are, we will just come to the conclusion, and we said that if there is anyone interested in talking to you more, we can link them up with you. They can contact us from the admin. And we had a few questions. I don't know if you can answer this for me, but one of the questions was, can the Department of Chemistry at UZ organize a collaboration with you guys?
Yes, certainly.
Yes, certainly. So if the person asks, I'll say certainly. And then there's someone who's asking for the calibrations of laboratory instruments. Do you just verify and certify, or you calibrate?
They calibrate.
They calibrate, okay. And there's someone looking for a potential collaboration in the field of entomology.
Yeah, we can always discuss.
Okay, someone is looking for employment opportunity. How do they go about this? They apply straight to SIRDC or they go through the Public Service Commission?
Public Service Commission.
Oh, wow. That seems like a very long road. Okay.
Unless if SIRDC advertises something like on through the paper print, yes, then you can apply directly. But if they haven't advertised anything, then yeah, public service works. I think there's a place where you can select your preferred. Yeah.
Okay. And there's someone with a moringa plantation in Gutu who is looking for partners to scale up and to collaborate. Can they approach SIRDC or there's another avenue?
No,
They can
no,
approach SIRDC directly.
yes, yeah.
Okay. So this is great. I think you've answered most of the questions that we had from the attendees. Thank you so much, Dr. Vimbai Samukange, for joining us and for being very willing to answer all our questions, broad and precise and up and down. We thank you so much. It was quite insightful. Our senior admin from the ZRN are going to get in contact with you, right? We hope there's going to be a fruitful discussion for future collaborations and consortium formation and collaborations between ZRN and SIRDC, of course. And we hope to work very well with you in the future.
No doubt. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great work.